Welcome to the MSL 411, a podcast designed to equip both aspiring and experienced MSLs with the resources they need to level up their career toolkit. The heart of this podcast is to take the same industry knowledge and advice that we share with our own candidates and make it available and accessible to anyone looking for answers. So if you have questions, you've come to the right place. We're here to give you the 411. And without further ado, let's dive right in.
Hey, welcome back to the MSL 411 podcast. We have a great episode for you, getting into a little more of the nitty-gritty of effective networking strategies. And this is actually part of a two-part mini-series that we're going to be doing, talking about, how to network, the actual networking conversation that you're having. And then, all right, you've done the networking, you've made those connections on LinkedIn, now it's transitioning to a live conversation. What does that look like? What are some tips for that kind of environment? So we hope that you guys will enjoy these episodes and have something to take into practice as you are trying to reach out, make new connections with MSLs. Maybe you're an aspiring MSL looking to meet other MSLs, or you're already in industry and just want to connect with other MSLs that might help you sharpen your skills, maybe from a different company or a different therapeutic area that might be beneficial to you in your careers. So over the years, we've been recruiting in medical affairs. All of us here have received thousands of messages from MSLs or aspiring MSLs looking to connect and network. And that's a little bit different than what you guys will be doing. But over the time and over the course of all of these messages, given the sheer volume of them, we've seen a lot of trends. It doesn't take a lot of time to quickly identify, this was a mass message that was sent out versus somebody reaching out specifically interested in speaking to me, specifically interested in speaking to our team. And so this gave us some ideas about things that we could talk about to help you guys understand as the senders versus the receiver of those messages, what good engaging networking looks like to maybe you're trying to network with recruiters, but mostly focusing on recruiting, networking with other MSLs. And so what would you say are some of the dead giveaways for a low effort connection request?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, just the generic outreach. Hey, I'm looking to break into medical affairs, would love to connect. Okay, so that doesn't tell me a whole lot. So there's no offer to send their resume or their CV or anything that tells me why I would want to connect with this person. So just the very generic outreach, one or two sentences doesn't really imply that they've looked at my LinkedIn profile or made any kind of connection as to why, oh yeah, that would be great. Actually, that's something I would respond to. It doesn't really kind of give a hook in any way. So that would be my first giveaway. But conversely, what are some of the more, well thought out responses and outreach messages that you see, or that really show that they put some effort in and that really kind of catch your eye and make you want to respond?
We'll get to the good part, right? I would say if anybody is going to, dedicate a chunk of time to networking, reaching out to people, you've got to have a strategy and everything. You've got to have a strategy and you've got to prioritize the contacts that you are going to make. There's obviously thousands of MSLs out there that you can reach out to. So you need to identify maybe 10 at a time. Who are 10 people that make sense for me to reach out to, and kind of curate that list. These are people that are at companies that I'm interested in. These are people that are working in the therapeutic area that I'm interested in. These are people who made a similar transition to me. So maybe they were clinical pharmacists for 15 years before transitioning to the MSL role, where they had tons of clinical experience coming into the role, or maybe they were kind of recently out of a postdoc making that transition. Maybe they have that similar background to you. Whatever that connection is, whatever that connection point you see between yourself and that person that you think is worthwhile to connect, identifying who are those top priority contacts that you want to reach out to. When you have a limited bandwidth for doing that networking, you can't spend all day doing it. And researching them and identifying who really aligns best with some of your goals. And so thinking about how you can curate that list, I think is really important. And then, once you have made that relationship, being sure that you are continuing that relationship. So thinking about ways that you can keep in touch with them. Maybe you guys share an alma mater, and connecting over what's going on at your university is a great way to connect. I've had a lot of MSLs that I've known and that I've worked with who've reached out to me because they just did some talk for pharmacists interested in the MSL, PharmDs interested in the MSL route at their university. And there was a couple of standout people within the group that she wanted to connect me with. Those are the kinds of things where keeping those connections and reminding people of those connections about your university, about maybe a society that you guys were both involved in, or maybe it's a personal connection. Maybe somebody you used to work with went off into the MSL role a couple of years ago. You guys have kept in touch. Finding ways to stay in touch with those people. The holidays are a great opportunity. Those are right around the corner. LinkedIn even has the handy birthday function. Just think about different ways that you can keep in touch with people once you establish that relationship. And then personalizing your message to them is important for success. Other ways that you can think about really trying to get to know someone and identifying those common connections is reviewing their profile to see where they live, or where they have lived too. What they post about, you can kind of get a feel for somebody, what they're interested in based on what they post about, what they're commenting on, what they're working in. Some people will just have MSL listed at their company, and maybe you can figure out what they're working in, but others will have more detail about the products they're supporting, the therapeutic area they're in, whatever detail they are offering, you should review that before you reach out to them. And then maybe it's other recent updates. Maybe they just recently got a promotion, maybe they were at a conference where they served as a lead, whatever that recent update is that they share about, be armed with that information as you're reaching out to them, or you are keeping in touch with them to congratulate them on whatever that may be. And then there's other things that connect people to. There is different MSL networking groups that are regional, that are based on geography. Maybe you guys are going to similar conferences, things like that. Things that you can have a connection point. You want to be sure to be clear about why you've chosen to reach out to them. Specifically, and highlighting those mutual connections that you may know, people you may know and have in common, and name them too. If you send a message to someone and say, "Oh, I saw we had some connections in common," that's kind of generic. But name those connections and make sure they're people that you actually know. I do get those kind of generic connections, and it makes me think that they're not real. Maybe the connections we have in common are other recruiters. I don't know. So be specific in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's one area where name dropping is okay and beneficial to you, because if you do have that mutual connection, that is almost like saying this person can vouch for me. And it's somebody we can reach out to and say, "Hey, I just talked to so and so," and it makes us strengthen that relationship with that other person by saying, "Hey, they dropped your name and apparently you guys know each other. I'm going to reach out to this person because you're important to me." And so that kind of is a good name drop, I guess. I would add to it that when you reach out to an MSL in an effort to network, it's not really the time to list your entire resume. Like, "Hi, I have this is my background, I do this and that," because you want to be compelling, but you also want to be very concise. And LinkedIn has a very handy little character count at the bottom, so you can kind of keep an eye on that, make sure you're keeping it very concise, because research shows that shorter messages get read a lot more than lengthy messages, despite how much information might be in that message. So you can keep it concise while keeping it compelling by saying, "Hey, I noticed that you have a background as a clinical oncology pharmacist. I am also a clinical oncology pharmacist. Looks like we went to the same university. I'm actually trying to get into the MSL role and thought you'd be a great person to connect with because our backgrounds are so similar." It shows you've done research. It puts a few pieces of information about your background, but it also is 2 sentences, 3 sentences or less. And so it's short. It gives some selling points, some connection points there, and also keeps it very concise, very readable. Another thing I would say is that it's a great time to give a call to action, because a question begs an answer, right? So if you're giving a call to action, not just like, "Would love to connect with you sometime." I mean, that's kind of easy to blow off, but saying, "Is there any time in your schedule where I could connect for a 5-minute phone call just to get your thoughts on XYZ?" I think that might go over a little bit better and get an answer a little bit better than just, "Would love to connect with you sometime if you're available." It's laying out a plan. "I would love to have 5 minutes of your time. Do you have some availability this week or next week," or whatever the case may be, "and would love to ask you a question about XYZ." And so you're laying out exactly what you want to ask them. You're putting a time limit on it that seems reasonable, and you're asking within a designated time space of when you'd like to have that conversation. So that's just an example of giving a call to action. There are many different ways you can do that, but just being specific, being concise, and giving a call to action that is something that is answerable, that has some endpoints on it, I think is very important. So I think that kind of adds to the points that you've made of just, these are some things that you can do that would be a little bit more specific, a little bit more answerable by an MSL who's got a busy schedule and
Yeah.
working in the industry. It gives them a little something that stops them in the tracks, sets you apart from all the people giving those generic
Yeah.
outreach messages, and it gives them something to respond to that has some weight, some meat to it. So
Yeah.
I think those are some hopefully key takeaways for you as well.
Absolutely. And MSLs are generous people.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time I'm having conversations with people about how they just talked to somebody recently, and I feel like by and large a lot of them do dedicate a little bit of time to offering that kind of mentoring relationship. And so it's good to keep that in mind, that they are of course generous people, but they can't respond to anybody who reaches out to them.
Right.
They have to be kind of selective. And if you want to be the person they respond to, offering something specific and compelling, like you said, Linda, is so important to get
Yeah.
your message looked at. And you guys love the examples from our previous episodes. And so we wanted to give you a couple that really stood out to us. I had a few in my inbox that I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this as an example. I received one that said, "Dear Ashley, I really liked reading your LinkedIn profile. It seems you are very enthusiastic about medical affairs recruiting." True. In parentheses, she goes, "and Texas." Also true.
Yes.
"As an aspiring MSL, I would love to connect and learn more from you about your work." She stroked my ego a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say that. So I do like this one. Maybe put a call to action in there, but she got me. She got me with the compliment. So I did respond to this one, and we try to respond to as many as possible. But there are some messages that we receive where we're getting them from, like I just had to respond to someone recently where she was looking for an MSL role, and we just don't work on international positions. So that's not something I'm gonna be able to help her with. That's really easy, quick. Sorry, I'm not the best person for you. But then there's other ones where you can tell that they don't really know anything about the MSL role, or they'll list like multiple roles that they're interested in. And to me, you're not set on the MSL role. You still have some research to do. You're trying to figure things out. I'm probably not going to be the person that's going to really be able to help you in a specific sense, because the number of roles that we have for people trying to break into industry are limited.
So few.
And if you're not all in, then maybe now is not the time, especially in the market that we're in currently. Another one I got that I loved was, "Hi, Ashley. I saw your name on a Reddit thread and am a practicing optometrist interested in the role as an MSL. Given my background, would love to connect with you." Again, she is making that connection. Symbio has piped in on the aspiring MSL Reddit page that has, we've commented on different things, but we've also done the Ask Me Anythings annually. We do that annually. So she probably saw my name come up a few times there and reached out to me and reminded me that that was why she was contacting me. So I'm like, okay, great. And I've said also on the Reddit thread, like, please reach out to me. So the fact that she, took the initiative, I was like, okay, this caught my attention. And so, just a couple of examples of ways that she's making personal connection to show me that she's intentional, she's serious about what she's doing. Those are the kind of people that I'm going to be able to help, because if you're kind of wishy-washy about what you want to do, you're one foot in, one foot out, now's not the time. You have to be so serious. This is a very, very competitive job that you're trying to step into. And that's going to come through the interview, that you are wishy-washy about what you want to do. And so I think it's important to set the stage from the beginning.
I agree. And I like the two examples you provided, because these people were specific. They were creative in how they gave you a draw into why they're reaching out, or why they'd love to connect with you, or just shows that they did their research. So the same in an MSL interview. You want to show that you've researched, a lot about the company. You've at least read their mission statement. I love that person said, I see that you're very enthusiastic about medical affairs recruiting and Texas. I know I've had, I'm from South Louisiana. And so in my About Me section on LinkedIn, I have just one little quick line about, like, ask me for my gumbo recipe. Nobody ever asks. And I'm a little, no, but I did have one person reach out and said, hi, I'm looking to break into medical affairs. I'm a clinical oncology pharmacist, or I don't remember the background, I'm just using that as an example. Would love to connect with you, and also would love to get your gumbo recipe. And I'm like, so even just that one line of specificity made me want to reach out. And I did reach out. And I wrote back and I was like, I would love to share that with you. Thank you so much. And yes, let's connect when you're ready. So just even that one little thing of somebody saying, I see you're passionate about Texas, or I read this, and that line is so buried in my About Me that she must have read it. And
I love that.
So I think that's great. And I will add that I do love when folks who are aspiring into the MSL role reach out and then say, let me know if you'd like me to send my resume, my CV, because even if we don't have a job for you at that moment, that helps us to see if there's anything we're going to have for you in the future, keep you in mind, but it also allows us to make our connections with you of saying, oh my gosh, well, I didn't see this on your LinkedIn, but on your resume, I saw that you worked over here. And we have clients that are looking for somebody who has that background at that site or something like that. So just making that offer along with a well thought out connection message. I think those are great when somebody offers to send their CV or attaches it in that message, because that allows me to learn a little bit more about you and see why I might want to have that conversation with you. So maybe just a little thought for people if they want to offer to send that as well. That's another way of being very specific and being very serious about your connection.
Yeah, especially if this is somebody that you might enter into a mentoring relationship with, if that conversation goes well, maybe it's, oh, hey, I would love to refer you for that open position we have on our team. And maybe that's the extent of the relationship, or maybe it turns into a full-fledged mentorship. You just don't know. And so that thoughtfulness is so important right out the gate to show them about who you are and give them a little taste for what kind of an MSL you would be, because part of what we are doing as an MSL is that cold calling and networking. So any final thoughts to add?
Oh, I think we've covered so many great things. I will say that when you're reaching out to folks to network, MSLs, recruiters, whoever it may be, templates are great. They're your best friends sometimes as a starting point. I would say if that helps you get started in the conversation, do that. But always, always, always 100% of the time, go in and personalize parts of it. Read that person's LinkedIn profile, look at their background, see if there's some connection points you can make or something that would be that hook that lets them know that, yes, this would be a meaningful connection, a good use of your time. I'm serious about wanting to become an MSL, and here's why. Again, great starting place, but your goal is to warm up the MSL. So make sure that your outreach is warm. You don't want to be a cold fish reaching out where it's no personality or anything like that. Be warm, be inviting in your outreach. So definitely keep that in mind. Show intentionality and try to avoid sending out something that reads like a mass message, because they get plenty of those. Chances are that MSL had somebody help them along the way when they were trying to break into the role. So like you mentioned earlier, they are giving people, they do want to give back, they do want to help, but they get so many mass message outreach invitations from folks trying to break into the industry. They can't reach out to them all. So you want to be different. You want to be separated from the crowd of all those mass messages they get. You want to be personal. You want to be warm, because if they're going to devote their time and pour into someone, it needs to be something that hooks them into that relationship. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's all I would add to the conversation. I feel like we've covered a great amount of topics here, but like you mentioned, this is one part of a 2-part series that we're going to do. So our next episode is going to take it a step further and talk about, okay, you've connected with them. They're willing to talk to you. So now what? Yes. So we're going to have a lot of great information, like I said, just taking it a step further. And so we hope you guys have enjoyed this topic. And of course, let us know if you have any questions. There is a link in the show notes below. You can reach out to us and let us know if there's anything we can expand on, or if you have any questions. But definitely stay tuned for our next episode where we go a little bit further, and we'll have that coming to you in a couple of weeks. So hope you join us then, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share the link, let your friends know, and of course, connect with us on LinkedIn. And if you want more information on today's topic, please feel free to reach out. Be sure to check back soon as we continue to explore the topics that matter most to you in medical affairs.